You're live,
All
Dion.
right.
It's your show. Welcome.
It's my show. Shoot, that's big. Big. Thank you, Robett. It's not really my show. I wanted to say that we're talking about old rope because maybe the advice or the conversation might be as useful as a piece of old rope. So yeah, really, just happy to be talking with such fine gentlemen. But hopefully we've got something to offer, Robett. I guess from me, it just was an opportunity to talk about. Some of the things that are going on right now. It's pretty unprecedented times. So I'm keen to hear how some of you guys are handling what's going down, and share a few war stories, so to speak.
You've done a shit job at the intro, Dion, because you haven't introduced the bloody guest. Let's go back for it. Okay, Dion, and go.
Oh my gosh, you're the pro, Robett. You better do the intros. You're the pro.
My name is James. Dion.
I've seen you on TV, James.
Hi, James. I'm Dion. I've got a skincare company which I probably should need to use a bit closer to in the present time.
So you're saying that we have to show more skin, or what's the deal here? Because
wow, that's an impressive piece of work you've got going there. I have to say, Bruce, it's
well, it's the last 3 days of lockdown. I just haven't shaved. So yeah, no, I grew this a number of years ago. I mean, it's no one's business, but my wife loves me having a beard, so I'm winning.
Yeah, as interest.
Yeah. Hides my age.
So the craft of the concept was this idea. It's called old rope. Now maybe I'm too young or too dumb. I don't actually really know what that means exactly. But the idea was Dion would invite a guest and a mate, and I'd invite a guest and a mate. And so I invited Bruce, my bearded black shirt, glasses. He clearly got the memo, mate. And then Dion has invited James into the mix. And I think the part of the thing we were trying to get to is where's a forum of a spot where we can talk about whatever's actually on our mind, but in a bit of a different way. And I think maybe let's start a simple point, Dion. What is, give me the breakdown on old rope. Am I just dumb, or are you too old?
So you're too young. The first time I heard it, I was in the Middlesex dressing room playing cricket in England, and a guy called Phil Tufnell, who was a left arm off spinner, bit of a character, and he goes, oh, it's money for old rope, innit? Money for old rope. And I was like, what is that saying? What's that? And I said, where's that come from? And he says, well, here's a piece of old rope, here's some money in it. So, and I was like, oh. But I was thinking, I mean, old rope is useless. I think the theory is that old rope has deteriorated. So when you pass on or you sell old rope, you can't trust that rope. And so it may be useful, but so sailors or people who used old rope on the wharves, they used to throw the rope out before it was completely deteriorated, and you'd buy secondhand rope or get given it for and sell it, and so that's where the saying comes from, I think. But the problem with it is you can't trust that old rope because you don't know where it's withered or worn or whatever. So it was always dodgy to buy old rope, which I thought.
Is that us then? So
that's what I was going to say. So we're the sketchy ones you can't be trusted.
That's what I thought. I thought, we're the old rope, take it or leave it. It could be good, it could be shit.
How do I leave this group? I just don't know which button is.
The bottom right.
Thank you. Cheers, Bruce. See you guys. Good luck, Dion.
Yeah.
I'm glad. I'm actually privileged and to be asked by Dion. He's an old mate of mine. I've known him for probably since he was a 16 or 17-year-old straight out of the Dargaville, and a little young firebrand. He's still an old firebrand, straight out of Dargie. And when he asked me to do this thing, I said, oh, that's cool, but do you know that Dion's best mate is a psychiatrist? So he said, no, men's wellness. We'll get a sports journalist in. It's a great idea. All good ideas.
Yeah,
I'm not even sure how I got roped into this, actually. Speaking about old rope. It's the classic Robett, hey, mate, what are you doing on Thursday at 4 o'clock? Don't know. Okay. And a meeting invite comes through, and that's it. What are we talking about? Oh, I don't know. We'll figure it out on the day. It's all good.
If there was a question, Dion, that would be underlying across, say, men in New Zealand right now that potentially isn't being asked in a public domain, what do you think that question would be? Or what do you think there's a elephant in the room? What's the mental elephant in the room potentially? Maybe we go straight to something there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough. I think our I think our position is sort of like most people, men or women, I think, get a lot. Well, I certainly do. I get a lot of my my uplift and or my reward in life from my job, and my performance in my job. And right now, I think that's been taken away for a lot of people or been put under extreme threat. So I think there's this issue out there right now that there's a lot of worry around that is not tangible. We can't, real kids or bow and say, here's what it is. But I think that ability to get that feedback, that instant feedback of you're succeeding, you're doing something, I think that's under threat, and it's on a mass scale. So I personally, I'm feeling it. And all of a sudden, the thing that you thought you were good at and you could go to most days and do something well and get that feedback, it's gone, and it's actually been replaced by something more pressing and urgent that you may not be as good or comfortable doing. So I don't know if that's even a conversation and maybe just an insight, but I think there's something there. Bruce, you might.
Well, I don't know if you guys have heard of enneagrams, but so I'm an 8, and what that means is what that means. Go and search it later. What that means is that I'm someone who likes to be in control. I like to know where I'm going. Very, very focused. Very, very diligent about what I do, and so I think. And even from my experience working with families at the parenting place, etc., having an unknown in front of you, or the unknown, whatever that is, whether you've been sick or whatever, that is one of the scariest things that anyone can go through. And at the moment, we've all been thrown into this bucket called the unknown, and none of us have. There's lots of theories, and you'll read lots of ideas and theories and thoughts, and you'll hear people say, "Oh, it's going to be 3 weeks, it's going to be 4 weeks, be 12." No one knows, and I think. All it does is feed into our anxiety about the unknown. So, it's kind of like, I think you spoke to Dr. Paul Wood this morning, and he came and spoke at Yellow a couple of weeks ago, and he's a phenomenal guy, but just, focusing on the things you can control. And so it's a real mental game. It's a real mental game as to every day I feel like I'm waking up and going, okay, what can I control? And what do I somehow just have to let go of? And it's not easy.
No, yeah.
I'll be lying to tell you if it was. And if you look at small businesses in New Zealand who we're dealing with, some have been hit brutally hard, like door shut instantly, end of game, and they've spent years and years and years and years and years and blood and sweat and tears, love, passion, vision, you name it, to build a business. And in one instance, it's gone. And if it's defined you, as you've said, Dion, which it does for a lot of people, I don't know. I actually don't know how you cope with that. That's huge. The grief must be massive.
Well, it's funny. I was saying to someone, it feels a little bit like, I haven't had someone close to me, pass, but you sort of hear about the stages of grief and all of that, or maybe breaking up with someone or whatever, and the sort of emotions that you go through. But I feel like 1 week in, you're already starting to see that, just the tone of emails, the sort of there's been a little bit of a honeymoon period, I think, which I'm starting to feel like that's starting to get frayed around the edges. So a little bit of fear too of what's ahead in terms of just how once people start reacting at different rates in different ways, and just how fragmented things can become. So, and I guess that's it, Robett. Part of it was trying to have this conversation to help ourselves as much as anyone else.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think anybody watching this right now will be going through a lot of the same stuff, with its financial stress, just that general worry, because with every day the landscape seems to change. I've had several friends who've just been made redundant today with Bauer Media shutting down, and they publish probably around half of the magazines famous in New Zealand, like The Listener, North and South, the women's mags, New Zealand House and Garden, all of that sort of stuff. But even just looking at the press conference with Jacinda today, straight away the media was saying, well, why couldn't you do more? Why couldn't you save them? And then, she's going to be asked that question a lot about several businesses that they're not alone. I guess the question now is, How do you sort of bounce back from something like that? All those people I know, I mean, I'm at the Journalism Awards, New Zealand Journalism Awards every year, and they come up and they're among our most talented people in the business. They've got skills and talent that can pay the bills in a normal environment, but we're not in that anymore. So you just want to see, I guess, some light at the end of the tunnel for people like that. It's happened to radio sport as well. I don't want to hog this chat too much, but that's that got canned as well earlier this week. And I mean, we're a sporting nation. Dion, you played some sport. And Robett, I know. Actually, all of you probably did. Robett, I know that Dion did a story on you once.
I went to Westlake and played the clarinet.
There we go, Bruce. And what's going to happen to the Clarinet Monthly? That magazine's gone. So that's the whole thing. It's actually really sad out there because every day there's another hammer blow,
and it's like you're losing pieces of not identity of what you thought was this is what I did, and this was part of my identity that I did this thing, and I got like that purpose thing. And obviously maybe it's just as means if it's just like boom 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 boom, sweet, that's it, done, next, it's very and I'm wondering all this unknown, it's just mentally I think it's really starting to stuff people up.
Well, I think the other part to it is in normal circumstances, if you lose your job, you can go and straight away look for another job, or sort of try to do something about it. But right now, that's no one's employed immediate solutions, or very few, who have got opportunities. But I don't believe there's a whole lot of magazines starting up, for example, independently. And of course, over time, that's going to happen, or there will, in the void, new things will evolve. But right now, that's right. But sort of it creates this sort of immediate sort of future of uncertainty, even more so, doesn't it? But I thought the radio sport one, James, that came as a real shock to me, even more than the Bauer media. Like, I just figured that was almost like a national icon,
Yeah, I mean, you guys probably will know a bit more about advertising revenues and how that's all sort of basically. I mean, it's self-evident, isn't it? There's advertisers aren't spending. There's no customers spending really. So for a lot of media, especially magazines and radio stations, they're just having to cut their losses. I know radio sport probably ran at a loss, if you like, if you consider that there are other bigger stations that might bring in the ad revenue, but then there's part of it which is, do you want to own that space and be on that landscape and provide something for the nation? And I think that's what they did for a lot of people.
I think actually you just highlighted a really interesting point there. Is if you're a brand or that has been possibly struggling on the edge. It's a bit like the coronavirus, right? If you're older and you've got other things going on with you, your risk goes up way higher. And it's very, very similar for a lot of these businesses, or some of the old legacy businesses that have been around, like print, that have been innovative to a stage, but this one really sorts it out. Then you see other businesses like Wine Central that are growing by 35%, or because they have an e-commerce, they're moving to that space. So I hear you too, Dion. I think what it does, which makes it very difficult for us, is it's fast tracking the inevitability for some businesses, which is interesting. But that doesn't make it any easier, by the way. And you get businesses like in New Zealand. I don't know if you read the email the EDM that came out from our new CEO. I mean, what a gig. It's affecting big businesses too. I mean, they were on target to bill, I think, was it $5.8 billion, and now they're on target to bill $500 million. And so and I think going back to small businesses and big businesses affecting everybody. But I think the thing that gives me hope but gives me worry at the same time is that New Zealand is built on the platform of small business. The large chunk of our country, and because we're tenacious son of a guns, we come up with ideas, we come up with thoughts. I mean, Dion woke up one day and realised he was not very handsome, and realised that he needed to do some grooming, and next minute we've got triumph and disaster. I mean, but that's what we're like as Kiwis, right? And so there's a hope there for me that I believe in my country and who we are as people, and that we will get through this. But there's also the sense of these people that have given so much for their business, for lifestyle or for their family that are really hurting right now. So it's that.
The balance off of that's quite interesting because if I think BNZ did this report out, they said 97% of New Zealand businesses are small businesses with under 20 employees, and then you know that other 3% all has protocols in place for when shit goes wrong. So they were that, you know, like we talked to the Spark and Vodafone's, like everyone has game plans for when shit goes south. All I read was 97% of people didn't actually have anything. So that's a lot of weight and pressure, and it's gnarly, man.
I mean, we do, but it is unprecedented, all right? So I mean, you know, for Greg Ferrand to come in and go, "Hey, welcome to the new job, mate. By the way, we're going to cut $5 billion out of your bottom line in one week." I mean, I don't know. It's speaking to one guy on our board, a guy which had a board meeting today, Brent Impey, who's well, you guys may know him. He was saying that this is, you know, and I don't want to be all doom and gloom, but this is the 1930s type environment. You know, this is quite a big mind shift. Now, we will get through it. We know that. But it is. Yeah.
So is he saying there's going to be a Hitler figure that rises out of this?
Oh, boy. It's still like
this time.
What was the Imster saying? No, I mean, sorry, carry on, Brendan. But yes, I do know Brent.
But I just think he said, you know, that we can't. I guess what he's saying is that we just can't be flippant about it. We've got to really think about the consequences. You know, it's not. You'll be right, mate. I don't know.
Yeah. I think, but also I think, like one of the things I said to my team, I think I said it to Robett a while ago. You know, when it first hit, it was like, you know, I invoked Gilbert Anoka, who was our. He always used to say, you know, deal with the you know, you can only manage the manageables. But I sort of found myself saying, like, look, it's 1 day, 1 week, 1 month. You know, and sort of like, and I had a conversation this morning with one of my staff member, and it was like, you know, 1 minute, 1 hour. You know, like if you're having those bad thoughts, bad times, you know, I've found my Twitter account as one. It's like a bad blimmin' fix or something that you know, it's just like, God, I can't stand looking at it, but I have to keep going back to it, and it's just all doom and gloom. It's like, but it's sort of like I think just that management of yourself. You know, I think you said it at the start, Bruce. I'm finding that the discipline of having to come back and just start again and go, no, when all those bad thoughts happening, 1 minute, 1 hour, you know, 1 day, get through it.
I mean, as a prestigious sportsman of this great nation of ours, you would have walked on the field many times where you haven't felt like your head's in the game, right? We certainly noticed it. No, just
so did the TAB.
Not fine. This is what I came for. This is what I'm here for.
No, as a sportsman, I mean, it's a good example. As a sportsman, you walk on the field and you have to get your head into the game. And what do? I mean, I know you watch All Blacks, they listen to music, they do all sorts of things. Yeah, are there principles there that we can use to help us? You know, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, bringing it back to like a number of times, you know, facing fast bowling or something like that, and you get out there. If you have that negative thought, you've got to get rid of that out of your head pretty quick, you know, and reset, because there's just no time to think. But you know, I don't know. I feel in a way it's bringing it back to nowness, you know, like going, shit, okay, everything has changed, you know. It's just got to. I read a book called Who Moved My Cheese years ago. And there was this fable, you know, about the mice had found a cheese, and one got fat and lazy, and the other one went off looking for more cheese. Of course, the one that went looking for more, he realized that the world had changed around him. And I feel like I keep challenging myself and thinking, but it's almost such a big change right now that I can't. You know, it's not only the cheese that's gone; it's they've taken the maize away as well. You know, it's almost like shit. There's a whole world, a whole free. I can run anywhere now, but just got to run in a good direction. So
it's not about.
But it's needing that mental resilience, knowing that next wave's coming tomorrow. Like literally every day, it's something. So you're gonna wake up, you're gonna see something and hear something. You know, like each thing it's almost like negative dominoes in effect, and you just need to be prepared for it until it gets past that wave. But the weight of it can, like, I'm getting messages from it from a few crew that I know, and it's the isolation isn't so much potentially just physical, it's the issue, it's the mental piece too, which is just starting to consume if they haven't, like sports people, you know, like and certain other people, they know how to get their head right for the game or get in the zone, or there's like things which are very you know, you can create and sort of get in, but in certain things like business, if you've just, you know, done your thing and this is how you roll, and you've never actually had that, just the forced stress of that in real time, you can tell it's starting to have an impact. And I can tell because I'm seeing it and hearing it and getting messages about it. So it's definitely a thing. And that's why part of the reason I got Paul Wood on this morning, which was amazing chat, that he was a flipping beast, was
read his book, man.
You know,
such a good book.
Holy shit. Was it How to Escape Out of Prison or something? How to Escape Out of Prison?
Jeez. Yeah, it's such a good book, especially for now.
I was intrigued with the idea of how did he get his headspace right to have routine in a confined environment. I didn't realize, I was thinking about, you know, like scheduling bits and pieces, but his was actually more around the mindset going into it, knowing of if you're mentally ready for, I guess, what was coming next, to know and have, I guess, a bit of gratitude around it as well for every little bit that you did have that many didn't. So yeah, it's going to be, I would just hope that more mates look out for mates. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll since there's been a bit of name dropping going on here, including
what have you done with your screen, buddy? You look like you're on
some mouse dropping.
The one guy who's actually paid for media is flipping like right in the sunlight.
There we go.
There we go.
You look like
sorry, I didn't even know
what was on the screen, mate.
Right.
What was on the
I was looking at something else actually. But hey, I'm back, guys. I'm back. Look, Sir John Kerwin, I had a chat to him about this because I said, look, I've got to go on this wellness chat. What do I do? He goes, just be yourself. Don't try and be anything you're not. And I said, well, then I'll just quote you, okay? And he said, fine. So he was talking about similar stuff to what you were saying, Bruce and Dion and Gilbert and Oka, which is, you know, don't worry about what you can't control so much. You know, you can't control the spread of COVID. You can't control the redundancies, but work on what you can control. So your action plan, staying indoors, getting some work done around the house, clearing those emails, just actually going full Marie Kondo, which I basically do need around here. But you know, connecting in other ways. I mean, if one of the first things or the last things I did before we went into lockdown was buy a landline phone, because I knew I had a landline here somewhere, and I thought I'm going to spend a bit of time on the phone if the mobile network is done. And you know how the mobile phone heats up on your ear; it's uncomfortable. So I got a landline phone, and I tell you what, making those connections, talking to people who you actually do really care about, because you know you do reach out to those people that you straight away you think about them. So why not call them? Because it's not just about being on social media and seeing their and liking their posts. It is actually better to have those chats. And I mean, I
agree.
Quite often talk to Dion, and we've spoken this week. Just
probably more
anyway.
probably more talking at Dion though, really, than with Dion.
Oh, seriously, mate.
Yeah, but I think you raised a really good point there, James. Is that
thank you, Bruce.
Yeah, that's okay, mate. That's all I need to say. But I was just thinking. I know, and look, we're all challenged in different ways, right? So we don't need to put our story. I mean, we're all being challenged by this in different ways. But I guess my question is, what is? Please, I don't want to sound flippant by saying this, but what does gratitude look like in this space? You know, what can we be thankful with what we've got? How can we reach out exactly like you said, and actually just checking on our mates, checking on people? You know, I had a you know, I'll give you an example. It's a sad story. I lost a mate a couple of weeks ago, and we had to do the funeral on Zoom. And now his wife is in lockdown with 4 kids.
Oh man,
dealing with that.
Sorry to hear that.
Now you kind of think about that and go, shoot. So she's on our mind every day.
Yeah.
So it's some of it's about controlling what you can control, but sometimes is how do you try and the best you can, and it's different for everybody. Put some perspective on it, is the best you can. And if you can't, because there's going to be days you're going to really struggle, then you ring up the old mate Dion and say, bro, I'm struggling. Just can't get my head around this at the moment. And he might just say 2 or 3 things and you go, oh, you never thought of that. Thank you. You know, so is it as simple as that? I don't know.
Yeah. It's interesting. It is. But it's also to build on that, I think, you know, I think when I was at a course not long ago and, you know, one of the people running the course, they said this great quote and they said sort of with mana comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
And sort of like you could translate that in many, many different ways. Like with responsibility comes great responsibility, you know, with leadership comes great. And I just thought it was a great sort of quote. And the reason you made me think of it then was, it's very easy to get into a situation, get a group of mates together and just tell everyone, throw into the middle how bad, who's got the worst stories and how bad. Yeah. Whereas really we've all got to be a little bit responsible, don't we? And actually not just cede to that, but actually bring something positive, I think, collectively. And I think even just that act is slightly more generous in outlook. And maybe that, so yeah, I don't know if I fully rounded that thought, but do you know what I mean? It's sort of like there's a responsibility on each individual within us, no matter how bad our situation is, to try to bring something. Yeah.
Well, I
don't know whether no matter how messy you think your house is, there we go. As if that makes someone feel better.
That's a set of ANZ.
Those are lightsabers, by the way. Those are 2 lightsabers.
Oh my gosh! Are you in Dunedin? I didn't know you were back at uni. What are you doing?
Hey, you should have a supply of lightsabers. Like we're preparing for the apocalypse, mate.
Well, I won't drop in names. When I was talking to Brad Pitt yesterday, I was actually speaking to Jason Gunn actually, but close, very close.
Here we go.
But he's doing some work for us, right? Because we I guess at our work, what we did, we said, okay, we don't want to sell anything right now. That's just completely wrong. And it actually, you know what this has taught us? We've looked at the way we do our billing, we looked at everything, and realised we're quite brutal. We're actually quite horrible. What does it look like to put goodwill in the front of everything? We've gone through our whole business and done that. What does it look like to get on for free at the moment? What does it look like to help? Just say we're actually here to help. This is what we're trying to do. And I asked Jason Gunn, because he's doing some stuff, as I said the other day, and I said, is there similarities to Christchurch? Because he said, when Christchurch happened, if we talk about the earthquakes, and of course we had that terrible mosque incident as well, but let's just talk about the earthquakes at this stage. He said, everyone lost their businesses, they lost their homes, they lost everything. He said the big difference between that and this, though, is that when you went home in Christchurch, you weren't safe because the earthquake followed you. He said, in this environment right now, whilst we are everyone's struggling in varying degrees, I get that, but we are actually safe. And the whole, this is a shout out for Jacinda. The whole thing is to be safe. But the safest thing, the best thing you can do for small business in this country, the best thing you can do, it's not even about coronavirus in my view. The best thing you can do for small business in this country is stay home, because the faster we can get up and going, the better it is for everybody. And that's the piece that we need to be focused on. That not the disease is one part of it, but I kind of think if you're saying 97% of businesses in New Zealand are small businesses, the best thing we can do for them is stay home. 100%, because we've got to get going fast.
It wasn't that safe at my place 2 nights ago when I dropped a bottle of red wine over the new couch. That wasn't.
Benny would have thrown the hammer.
It happened. It's sort of like it just happened in slow motion. It was like you hear those stories, and it was I could see it happening, but I thought, oh no, this is gonna be bad, but I just couldn't react in time, and the whole thing. And then of course I sat there for a moment and watched it tip out. And and she was reacting quicker than I was. It was like, oh God. So not always safe.
Of course, being a cricketer as well, dropping something that big,
acceptable. Even if you're retired.
I thought somehow on the rounded edge of the couch, a bottle of wine might sit there, but clearly
no. You should know better, mate. Seriously.
She was saying that Christchurch, because she's from Christchurch, and I sort of said, "Oh, how's the South getting on?" Meaning, and animals and stuff. And that's sort of I've been through this and worse, and with the thing. So I think there's something to that. They're pretty hardened down there, the mainlanders.
I've got good news, team. We've got a couple of questions that have come in. This wasn't a Q&A show, but clearly we're getting some great engagement.
No. I've been here before, guys. This is real risky.
No, it's good. It's good. Hayden McCall, talking about mindset, what do you guys think about the balance of rolling over and acceptance versus questioning the settings that have been put in place and resisting it? Oh, going a bit deep there, Hayden. Okay, Hayden, I see. And we'll go to the
That's a great question. Who's that?
That's why I was just quiet, because I knew it wasn't me.
So is he talking about
I reckon this is a great question, right? And it's sort of like because stuff, and this, and I think it's almost like there's almost the unspoken can you challenge the mood of what we've done? I saw a great thing on, the Rawlsian philosophy versus utilitarian versus sort of libertarian sort of philosophies and what's prevailing in the day, and it's got quite deep sort of stuff. But I feel like we're in this mode where it's a little bit dangerous to challenge the status quo and ask those questions. But I think we're going to be forced into that at some stage, and I think we have to be robust enough politically as a nation and as individuals to not make it personal as whether it's right or wrong. But I think the way out of this, if you're listening to the economists and people saying, hey, okay, now we've done this, we need a way out. Part of the way out, I think, is to sort of gently but firmly ask the questions of, have we got this right? And you're looking at Denmark, for example, or Taiwan, and how they're handling it quite differently. I think we need to, as a country, and politically, I believe, we need to be fluid enough to respond with an open mind, because I think that that will be true leadership if we can do that and respond in the right way with more information comes to hand, and as a collective, and not blame or point the finger, but actually be robust and have this conversation. I think that's going to be key. Don't know if I've even answered the question, but that's sort of felt like a.
I think you have, actually. I think it's so unprecedented, right? We actually don't know, and that's the challenge with this, right? I mean, I get trouble. I might get in trouble for saying this. I'm just going to say it. Can I say it or not?
Yeah, say it.
Personal opinion. Everyone else's, but it's your personal opinion, not those who are currently paying your mortgage. Go for it.
That Dion's products make great lube.
After seeing your flat, mate, that does not excite me at all. I don't know.
Please say it.
21,000 people a day die of starvation.
Yeah.
Now, it's a statement. I'm not sure even what to do with it, to be honest with you. I'm not even sure whether it's the right statement to make or a bad statement, but it kind of goes, I hope that we come out of this and actually think beyond Western culture. We actually start to think a lot more in an effective, altruistic way. I'm a bit of an idealist, I guess, in that perspective, but I guess what this has done is it's leveled the playing field a little bit around vulnerability, humility, diversity, understanding that this virus doesn't discriminate, doesn't choose the gender, doesn't choose the nation, it just goes. I don't know. I'm challenged by those sorts of things.
I don't know.
I
was just going to say it's a dangerous question, because what it does, it then makes you think, well, why are we caring about this so much? It's like, I don't know, because this affects us. That's why we care. Right. That's why it shuts down. That's why, but I think to your point, if you zoom out, man, that's a flip. It's not even a slippery slope. That's just gnarly, because it actually makes us question more about ourselves than each other, right?
But I think that's the point. I think, we need to politically. I've never lived in such a time, and maybe it's just because I'm older, Robett, and I'm paying attention to these things. But I've never lived in a time where people have pulled into political corners so much with their guns drawn, and I think that political corners, philosophical corners, all rounded, everyone's taking stances. Are you left? Are you liberal? Are you right? Are you, or whatever? And it's like, actually, the world's so much grayer than that now. And I feel like this is an opportunity for everyone just to maybe lower their guns and actually have a really mature conversations. Because if you don't do that, and we can't have these conversations, and if we can't table these things and say, hey, have we got this strategy right? And is it realistic to have no one die of this disease in New Zealand? I don't know. That's a great goal, but is it realistic, and what's the cost? If you can't have that conversation openly, and you still might arrive at where we are right now, but I think it's wrong to close that conversation down just wholeheartedly. But at the same time, if you're going to have it, I think it has to be mature and with guns not drawn. And
I think. I don't want to make this political, but I think the way Jacinda's handled this is incredible. Really, I think the way she's communicated has been crystal clear. God, I mean, she's had her challenges, hasn't she, over the years with what she's had to deal with as our leader. And I hope, and I know actually she's probably the sort of person that would be fine to have that conversation. Actually, I agree with you, Dion. I think there's going to be a bigger conversation that comes out of this. We've got to change from it, eh? Sorry, James, I jumped on you, mate.
Yeah. Even at the moment, I think there's almost we've got to be careful about not being too smug about the situation that we're in, because, a lot of conversations, you notice people are just saying, look at what's happening, in
right.
Italy, America,
That's right.
Australia is slow. And so we've kind of got this almost like a moral high ground when it comes to coronavirus right now, but we should still be mindful of the fact is
right.
care just as much about what's going on over there, that there are people losing their lives, and it's exactly the same. I think it's fair enough as well for you, Bruce, to raise those statistics of those other things that are basically plagues on the world too. Why can't we have that conversation? Because it's time. We've got enough time. That's not the issue. So we should be able to lump it all in and just work out what strategies we need for several things. But you get the feeling that we're waiting for the downgrade to level 3. We'll do social distancing and be careful. A few businesses are going to really even struggle. Like, for example, sport. Dion, people who came to watch you play cricket, it's going to be like actually a first class game that you probably played in, where there's just a smattering of 3 people, a hot dog caravan, and that's okay. But anything bigger than that is going to be outlawed for a long time if we're really serious about the strategy that we've gone through here is really a waiting game until a vaccine comes along and until we control the spread of it.
Yeah, and if you go from macro, so let's talk macro, which is interesting. But man, I don't know about you guys. So going for a walk around the block, how many people say hello to you now? To go down to the micro, we have the high. When I speak in charity, I go, I love winning in sport, right? I love being the best clarinet player around. I love that we've got the best rugby team in the world, not a bad cricket team, a few other things. But I don't like the fact that we've got the highest teen suicide in the world. I don't like the fact that we've got the highest teen pregnancy in the. I mean, we've got shit going on right next door right now that we don't even that we choose to ignore. So I kind of go, I don't know. That's I guess not my dark thoughts per day, but I guess my thoughts per day. That's what's sort of coming into my head at the moment. And
it's a great.
I don't think, So
and it's a perfect segue because the bro Glenn Marvin, the bro from Connector, said, my unfortunate prediction: the biggest killer in New Zealand from this will not be the virus; it will be depression. And I was like, yo.
It's a fear of mine, to be honest. So, we do a morning Skype with all my team, and you just look at these faces looking back at you, and everyone's robust to a point, right? But we do collectively, and part of this conversation, I think, Robett, really was driven out of those things as well. How do we keep everyone's spirits and keep the conversation sort of above? So just to that one connection might be the difference, right?
Yeah, and even when we're talking about controlling the controllables, one of those things surely is, if you know somebody who is in a bad way, to actually reach out and do that now, because it's hard when you hear of a friend who's lost work and you just got to give them space. I mean, a really good mate of mine, Nathan Rarity, was made redundant in that radio sport axing, and so I contacted him that night, and he just texted back and said, "Sorry, just going through this with the wife." I mean, how it breaks your heart just knowing that he's actually just at home having to sort of break the news, tell everybody what does it mean for them. Was it Glenn who sent in that's Glenn, a good prompt, isn't it? It is almost like a call to arms that one of the things you can control is actually reaching out and helping people, and looking after your loved ones. Yeah.
The exact thing with that is because the reason that people say they don't is the classic, oh, sorry, man, I've just been so busy. And then they're like, oh, yeah, just been so busy. And it's always, it's the default setting, get into that vibe. And now is a time where you do not have an excuse. You are stuck at home. No one is doing absolutely anything. No one has any excuse to be able to actually go and do it. And so maybe I'll share this. Not many people know this, but I'll maybe say it. So I've got a personal CRM for all my friends and people that I care about.
Are we on
And
it?
I just texted you the other day. I talked to Dion. Shit, stuff you guys. It's called, and what it does is it basically, because everyone gets into their schedules and stuff, right? And so what this thing does, it comes up with different prompts and cues, but also like notes and tags of names of their dogs, kids, when like whatever. And I now religiously have it scheduled into my calendar every day, and I reach back out to different crew, and it's a little small piece, but
I call that my wife. It's like she's got the birthdays knitted down. But sorry, I cut you off.
No, it makes it because a friend of mine, so Pania Tyson Nathan, so she's the CEO of Māori Tourism. She's got a book with 30 years of relationships of people she's met, with every single thing that she's given them, where they met, the names of their kids, schools, and absolutely everything. And I asked her about it. I said, how do you? What? And she goes, no one will really take you seriously until they know how much you actually care. And I was like, damn, it really sort of hit me, especially when, and it means a lot because everyone's busy, but like when I'm reaching out to my mates and stuff and I haven't talked to them in ages, I know it means a lot for them because I'm not asking for anything. I'm genuinely saying what's up. There is no, it's the classic, I call it the 90-day mate. If I look at my phone and I haven't heard to that from person in over 90 days, the conversation is going to go like this. Hey, bro. Oh, what's up? Yeah, mean. How's things? Oh, yeah, good. Yeah, busy. Yeah, same old shit. So, and it's the ask, right? So as soon as I see that, and it's a weird trigger that I have that I know because it's flipping horrible in business, but man, it's just a thing. So I've proactively have a thing, and this is the first time I guess I've said it, but I think it's important because in my circle, I want people, even though I know we're all busy, I want them to know that I still generally are thinking about them, and I know it makes a difference.
But I learned that when I met my wife, and this is shout out to my good wife. But she's got this incredible memory for birthdays, and she sends more flowers than anyone I know to the most random of people. And I sort of for quite a long I was bemused by this, and she had this memory for birthdays. But the impact that has, and she'll send someone like random bunch of flowers for a birthday, and the flow back that she gets from that, and as a result, in a weird way, that I get because I sort of hear it and feel it. It's sort of incredible, and I sort of watch that, and I'm not quite as wired that way. James, you might know that. I tend to ring up when I'm in need.
But I mean, we stay in touch. I mean, I guess our friendship is pretty. It's pretty natural. Like, I mean, we've always stayed in touch, and every now and then it'll go too long, and we'll admit that to each other. I guess the one thing is that in terms of wellness, the one thing that I probably do every week that I used to do every week before the lockdown was have this game of touch that I play down at Cox's Bay in Auckland. Here.
Is that the one you gave me a blood nose when you pushed me?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I gave Dion a concussion accidentally, and so I did invite him down to, I guess, what you call the wellness retreat of touch footy, and he came down once, got concussed, and never turned up again. So I have. Maybe it's time that I reached out and welcomed you, invited you back. But those things we're missing now, right? So we're missing those weekly,
Do you know why?
Weekly contact.
As I feel that professionally we have structure and systems, and we use the calendar in a commercial sense. We don't take the same approach to our personal life, so it just goes out. You'll have that weekly whip with the team. You'll have that weekly catch up and FaceTime. You'll have the monthly report to go out. But then you don't see someone who you were boysies with for flipping 10 years, best mates through uni and all this other shit for 3 years, and then it's just like, oh, bro, we need to catch up. All right, yeah, me, cool. And then you go on with it. It's because I think instinctively, everyone that I know, or the majority of people that I know, they don't have I'm not saying take a business structure into your personal life, but literally by using a better routine with how you prioritize that time in your personal life, not just professional. It's like people will block out like mental thinking time, right? Or they'll have, walk time or whatever these things, or meditation, and I just think it needs to be more of a proactive move to do it.
I think like Bruce said a really great thing earlier. Like he said, like he's asking about, sorry, yeah.
Not bad for a clarinet player.
Yeah. But you said like we're looking at how we can put goodwill at the front of everything. And I thought a great sort of catch cry for the moment, right? It's like if you can put, not only for your business but personally, if you can put goodwill at the front of every transaction, every interaction, it's the right place to start, right?
I remember an old mentor of mine said to me years and years ago, he said, if anyone rings you up for a cup of coffee, you should always say yes. Now, no one's rung me yet, so I've been okay. But, so I've done that. So I've done that, and he said,
but there's a why, right? But go. You're going
to get some randoms. He said, you're going to get some random people, and I guess for people like you guys who are more, more known, I guess it might be not a realistic thing, but man, I've met some awesome people, and I've been given some great ideas, and I've employed a bunch of them at the times, and I don't know. I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in who we are and how busy we are in our lives that we actually even forget that, we have a wife there that loves us. We need to be giving her time. What does that look like? Our children want, time with them, and people in our community, and also people that reach out to us. I think his view on it was this: if someone's got the guts to reach out to you, if you're a CEO or a cricketer or a sports personality or a vet, someone's got the guts to do that, then you have to return that mana and that sense of respect by going back to them. And I've met some gems, man. I don't know. It's just, I'm very.
I think it's a great. It's a great insight. I've felt in a weird way the same way. I think it's all if someone's can get off their chuff and go and ring you up and do that. I think it's totally worth it. The other interesting thing that came up there is I thought, which you've raised quite an important point, which many of us have been struggling with, is just how to define Robett's role and title these days. It's like, it's just, and then Robett. It's like
I've got no idea.
He's becoming like Madonna or Prince or something.
Mate, so this thing, we went on this retreat, Dion, and if you'd gone, you would have been getting a bracelet with an R on it, which is an hour and a full. Everybody, I've taken mine off because I just realised how narcissistic it was. But it's like a cult. It really is like a cult.
That was for the bar tab, and everyone just kept it on after.
Whatever. I saw someone was promoting how to do homemade tattoos. You could promote that as the sort of like beginner tattoo for homemade tattoos.
No, on a serious note, why I think it's kind of funny because I guess I can't really go in a box of anything. Is I updated my LinkedIn profile last night and I said, "Kia ora, I'm Robett, a bald, overweight digital cheerleader for New Zealand business." and that's my LinkedIn done.
Now, I know that Bruce is, like the idea of going out to coffee with everybody who asks you is quite nice if you can do that. But maybe if we rewind it to the idea, I think Robett, with the mate who you say, "Oh yeah, we must catch up," and nothing ever happens. That is something that I think that maybe if we can combine Bruce's definitely going for coffee with the must catch up, and somehow make that sort of appointment as important as your business thing. Then,
so here's your challenge, guys. I'm going to give you a challenge. Here we go. Don't have to do it now. Think of 5 people today or tomorrow that you haven't reached out for a while, but actually it might make their day.
I'm already 3 up. I started that this morning. I'm 3 up.
Good, I'm on the list.
3. You're not on there, Bruce.
I mean, maybe it's as simple as that, And if we did that, and everyone who's listening to the show, the other 3 people who are watching this right now, if they did that, that's 5, 10, 15, 20. Yeah.
So the app that I use, it's called Up Habit, UPHABIT. Up Habit.
Little shout out.
And it's unpaid. There's no promo code. There's no affiliate linking. There's nothing. It's literally what I do. But I think it's you don't even want to. I don't want to feel that people that know me that I can help with feel bad to ask because they feel I'm unapproachable, regardless how busy everyone is. I absolutely hate that. I absolutely hate that because it's like there shouldn't be a wall. Like a friend of mine who I've known for 15 years through the snowboard world, he messaged me randomly to ask about this thing, and I rung him straight up. I was like, "Bro, he's from OG, like done." He was like, "Man, thanks so much." I was like, "Bro, don't feel bad." He's like, "Oh, because I know you're super busy," and I think that's these invisible walls that come up, especially maybe Dion James, and if you're in the mix, you kind of people pretend they think that it's a barrier if they know you to not feel like they can get into it. So yeah, I think that's mega. Here we go.
Hey, that other app you got me into called Sick Habit, that was a bit weird. Sick Habit.
Up skirting, was it? What was the website again?
No, jeez. So we've had a couple.
I'm trying to put it in the. Yeah, sorry, mate.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I was paying attention.
Calvin, Calvin, oh, he's such a G. Calvin, such a boss. Goes, oi, where's my text, Dion?
Shout out to Calvin. Calvin's like that. Calvin's my designer. He's the bomb. It's that I'm too scared to shout out to Calvin because I'll have to give him a job.
Dude, I mess with Calvin heavy, man. I actually rung him up about this whiskey idea, so I think I can mess with him on it. He's a fucking good bastard. Couple of ones, yeah, good points, great question. And then Joy Jovic, nice work, man. Great initiative and platform to share the knowledge and thoughts. In Dion's words, keep rocking. Very cool.
Oh, good Northern boy. See,
and another power mover. Good crew. Nice chat. Defining Robett's role. Yeah, the impossible question. See, it's good. You know that the good bit is if no one knows what you do, no one knows what they can get from you. And as soon as they do that, it's the best move. And then you don't have so many 90-day mates. Yeah, no. So actually, there's another question here, and it is from. It's actually from Calvin. Here we go, Calvin, round 2. Question, I'd like to know what Dion's skincare routine is every day.
Really? Don't ask me.
You talking about routine, go on.
Good moisturizer, that's the key. Yeah. And obviously shaving most mornings, Calvin.
Most
mornings. Oh no, I think.
And if you haven't got moisturizer, have you got a Bear Grylls remedy that you could use?
I'll give Calvin a bit of context. So Calvin and I, when I started my business 9 years ago, so I'm 9 years old, and 14th of April, and I remember sitting in a cafe up on K Road with Calvin out the back, and 9 years ago we were sitting there and we're thinking, how do we make a brand that that resonates deeper than just putting a moisturizer in your face? How do we get it to have an emotional connection with guys and make it okay for guys to use products? And Calvin was right there with me. We're bouncing all these ideas around about, and we were Calvin was probably, he's the smart one of the two, but he was saying, what about rituals? How do we go deeper into someone's life and we create a ritual for morning so that adds value to people? And I think in today's world, one of the things we still to this day we sell is, we see we're adding value to people's lives because we're enhancing their little rituals. We're making those little moments that are theirs a little bit more special.
Yep.
And Calvin will forever be my man because still benefiting from all those that thinking and thoughts and work. So thanks, Cal.
And thanks, Calvin. And Dion, my idea for the carry-on travel pack, for your luggage, just forget about that because no one's going anywhere at the moment. So just shelve that one.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. But on the subject of routine, which I think is kind of maybe more to the serious point, is it's the idea of what you can control, and I think, routines of if you're in sport or whatever, you have like warm-ups and specific things you do that gear you up. The same way it's whether, you wear on a certain shirt or clothes or that routine piece, it sets mental structure, which makes you feel, I guess, empowered to sort of go and stuff. But yeah, so Calvin's like, what's rare, when I first met him, I could tell, I was like, man, you're like super deceptively gnarly. You're like, when you see crew and you're just like, yeah, you're mellow, but you can tell you're you're deceptively gnarly is how I would describe, which is cool. So yeah, he's such a G.
I was going to add to your routine there, Dion. So what you can do is just grow excess hair and wear big glasses, and you find
no, you can't.
The areas I have to moisturize are very small. It's just the hair and it's a little bit here, and just hide your beauty behind a blanket of fur.
No, I've toyed with that over the years, but I found myself turning into like I started to look more and more like a rabbi or a monk or something. I just had this sort of like thing, and every time I'd catch myself, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go off into a cave and live by myself."
Thanks again.
We have another question. It's from the bro David. Can you ask the boys where they see the opportunities will come out of this in their respective markets?
Yeah, definitely.
Uh,
So our bro Patrick has started a group called Manaki.io. Check it out. And it's kind of a think tank, free. It's so good, man. So Patrick's X0. He's an absolute amazing guy. Anyway, he's pulled all these business guys together and to give free advice to businesses right now. So you can jump online, you can ask questions, and it's all there. So I'm going to give him a shout out because it's such a good piece of resource. But one of the big things that have come out of it is within small businesses, and we've noticed this at Yellow too, is how many are not digitized in any way, shape, or form. And I think an opportunity you should be thinking about, this is not a sales piece, this is actually just thinking, is that the businesses that are actually doing okay at the moment are the ones that have actually gone to that space. Now, you may not have a product that does that, I get that. But it's amazing how businesses do have a product or service, but they still depend upon a terrestrial or non-digital perspective. So that would be, to me, a very simple pivot, is kind of thinking about what you do, what you sell, how do you reach a different type of audience than someone that might walk in the front door. How do you have a conversation with them? How do you tell them your story? How do you tell them what you're passionate about? How do you tell them, those sorts of things? And I think that to me would be, and if you've got time now, that's the time to start thinking about that sort of stuff, right? You've actually got time to do it. Yeah. So that would be one thought, just for a starter.
I don't know if I have an answer to the question exactly, but what I have found myself naturally doing is I've been reaching out to what would previously I would have said were maybe competitors or people in my category that I were in touch with, and I'm having much deeper conversations with them and trying to suss out opportunities and where collaborations, or whether it's just advice, or whether it's collective thought of where the things are going. I'm finding I'm doing that much more, and people are much more receptive to that. And I think that the landscape is going to be so different and so changed that I think in New Zealand we're not really in competition. Well, in my business, I'm not really in competition with any other New Zealand skincare companies. I'm trying to sell to the world and compete with the players out there. So there's enough space, but coming together, forming alliances, or just sharing information, all of that sort of stuff, I think is going to get us much closer to where that is. But to Bruce's point, for me, it's all about trying to work out online, but without forgetting about the rest of the world of retail, because it's people still need that interaction with a product. They still need that, and my brand's been built on retailers, so I need to look after and find ways to help them, because I think if I can help them going forward, I'll benefit as well myself.
And I think it's an and, not an or. I think it's I think you have to have an and that's kind of what I'm sort of saying, is kind of what's your and is there an opportunity there? And I just love that tenacity of New Zealanders. I don't know if you know the story. You would know Fat Boy as a product, wouldn't you, Dion?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I mean, the guy invented that on a stove in a cold, small apartment in the middle of New York. Buying product and basically stirring it on this. I mean, it's bonkers stereogram. And I just love that tenacity. And the other thought I have is kind of what ideas been percolating that you've never had the guts to try.
Yeah. The other, and sorry, James, I'll cut you off, but the other thing that I keep thinking about is just from a larger perspective is food from New Zealand to the world. I just think if there's one area that New Zealand really, now we look back at our farming community and maybe one of the things is, adding value to those raw products. There's that opportunity must be huge going out to the world.
Yeah. In the media, it's there's already massive changes, so I guess it's how everybody rebounds. I think we'll probably see. I think people will move more quickly once this, because in the digital age, we've still probably moved quite slowly. People will have ideas and then meetings. If you look at even say my mum's career in the 1980s. She was a teacher. She moved from a small town, Te Awamutu, out to the coast, the middle of nowhere near Kawhia, which is south of Raglan. And then moving the whole family, just everybody goes, you know what I mean, with within a couple of years, just bang, bang, and then up to Auckland. Whereas I sort of feel like in that time, I look at my career, I've worked for the same place and done the same thing at the same age. So I reckon now the media is going to be a lot more nimble on its feet, light on its feet. We'll see, sort of more online-based stuff. So, for example, a radio sport could just be an entire, like we're doing right now, but just for the entire day online. So
that's cool.
Let's hope that that's what happens. I want to see that happen, but there's going to be even the safety and numbers thing, which media always relied on. Bauer Group, we've just seen all those magazine titles. I think there's more room for people just to do that boutique thing where you just have those 3 or 4 sponsors who are your family, Triumph and Disaster, Yellow, and whatever Robett does. And those are your 3 people, and those are the people you get behind that will power your company. You don't worry about that massive umbrella because they're owned by some guys in Germany who are going, no, it is over. Goodbye.
Well, you know what I think to that point is this: it's not co-opetition or anything, but it's this idea of I was looking at the social feed today after the Bauer news came out, and a bunch of crew from different competing organizations were putting it up and be like, "This is shit." Like our ecosystem gets weaker when our competitors are there's less of us in there. There's all this talent, and it's kind of in a weird way, it makes you just stop for a second and be like, guys, we're actually kind of on the same team here. Even talking to, we interviewed Cameron George yesterday, CEO of the Warriors, and he was saying, he is going to use this time to think more horizontally of how there can be horizontal collaboration within sports codes and different things, and even just that there. Clearly, everyone, it's I call it like. The old world was very fragmentedly aligned, right? Like they're in there, like, yeah, we've got this thing, but it's their own fragmented little piece to it. And what I would hope, and where we ended up with our chat yesterday, was saying we shouldn't finish at the end with 1,000 people trying to solve the same problem 1,000 different ways. Right now would be the time. Okay, cool. So exactly to your point, Dion, is like what are those like horizontal collaborations that make sense commercially as co-opetition, right? Like I would have, a friend of mine that he was at, I was just before I got on with you boys, I was with him. He's at Bauer, he's up the food chain there, and we're just saying, where's everyone going to go? And we're kind of saying the stack of, do you, exactly to your point, James, do they just go on, Medium or Patreon and create their own little thing with their own little community and fans? What are the sort of plays that are going to happen? And just, I get, it bums me out when people with talent can't do what they're passionate and purposeful about because there isn't the dollars in it. And that's kind of sad in many ways because right now, like say in the telco space, everyone is using telco and telco data can go up. But what are they doing? They're watching content, and then there's no money in the content game. So it's kind of this weird thing where the same person is using 2 different aspects of the same device, but one of them's winning and one of them's getting shut down. It's just part
of me at the same time as you're saying, competition is good, but I also think like maybe out of this will come good in the sense that we'll just all have to get better. Like I think there's no question you can't, in any sort of environment where there's, if we're going to get to a point where people were going to have to maybe lower their expectations. What do I actually need to live on? If I'm going to start up a podcast or whatever it is, what can I actually live on each week? And then build that up from scratch and work out how hard and how difficult that is and go and be all of those things and get really good at that. I think if someone can make that system work, that's going to be a great system. Like James saying about, something like this for radio sport that you can check into. If someone does that really well, that would be, I'd love to watch that, right? Yeah, and maybe the old storylines of what we keep getting thrust. I know personally, if I read the Herald sports news, I want to scream. I want to, if I read about cricket, I'm like, I just can't. I get very frustrated professionally, and so like out of this, maybe other people who had that same frustration or have a different take on the world of the things I'm passionate about. Those voices get aired. So there's opportunity, and I'm looking forward to some of that. But it's not going to take away the hurt right now.
I think the other thing too. Yeah, I was going to add to that. I really challenged by hyper local. Really challenged by supporting your local. So I'll give you an example. We get given quite a bit of grief around the Yellow Pages. I don't know if you've noticed, but mostly from Aucklanders. Because if you're in Taranaki, the Yellow Pages is still one of the best mediums for you, to advertise your business. Now, I'm not doing that to sell it. I'm doing that to say that if we listen to the guys that are giving us a hard time in Auckland, we would have just closed it down. But actually, that was still a very, very powerful platform for many businesses in New Zealand. So there's a sense too of kind of going, how do you think about New Zealand? Even Dargaville, Dion, how do you think about New Zealand? The whole of New Zealand. How do you? I don't know. I think we get so locked up here in Auckland, we don't actually think about that. And I'm fascinated about what does business look like, supporting business, hyper-local, supporting local businesses, especially around agriculture and all those sorts of other areas, innovation. New Zealanders are so focused a little bit of sort of going out to the big wide world, and doing that. And I get that, don't get me wrong, but this has changed that now. So you kind of go, okay, we're a cool island. Someone told me a stat the other day that we have enough food right now to feed 60 million people. I don't know if that's a stat I heard the other day. But
I've heard most of that.
but all that. The point I'm trying to say is, man, we're so freaking blessed in this place. Yet we're so fast to kind of ditch our Kiwi mates and go and buy overseas and do this and do that and do the other. I don't know. What does that look like?
I'll quickly jump just on exactly that point in the hyper local thing. So we had Sam Stubbs on the other day, who's the CEO of Simplicity KiwiSaver. They're sitting at about 1.5 billion now in holdings, and he was saying their strategy moving forward is to buy and start driving locally. Hospitals, infrastructure, whatever. So everyone that becomes within it, they made a big call last year that they said, no tobacco, alcohol, guns, bad shit, any of that stuff is out in the investment portfolio, and they're going to double and triple down on things that are more, I guess, more ethically right. And then now with this thing, there's going to be more of a shift in VC fund and investment firms and all these big sort of money stuff that's actually going to drive, exactly to your point, Bruce, to go local with it, like that's
But I feel like there's a role here for government. And this is me pushing my political agenda for when I go for Parliament later in the year. But I think there's an opportunity here. If you look at what previously tourism was our biggest, one of our biggest things, farming and the land is clearly one of our is the breadbasket right now and going to be for a long time. And we sell ourselves on clean and green, but we all know that there's holes in that picture. But to me, rather than sort of doing free fees for everyone, why aren't we sort of pushing all of our youngest and brightest into green technologies, into green, researching green and researching efficient energies and researching the future that are going to, if we solve a widget that cleans up waterways for all of our farmers, the whole world needs that widget. Let's start focusing in on the next engine of our economy that's going to support the other engines. So, and I think we need a little bit of direction there from above. We need to actually have people in power saying, let's direct people away from things like law and whatever. Those are all great things, but if you're not born to law, if you're just doing it because you think it's a good degree, but you're really great, why not challenge these people to think, young people to think about things that are going to service new economies that we can start locally, they're going to help everyone we've got locally, and then we can push out to the world whenever they're ready. But I think we need to start thinking about that next engine,
Yeah, I think so too, because if you were to analyze, say, where all the top Harvard and Yale grads went, and if you'd almost be depressed to see perhaps how many of them went to big business, and were locked in, whereas you want those minds to be challenged and stretched and doing, making widgets, Dion. But
I think also if we get into clean energy, who's into clean energy? Well, Google and Tesla and Lemon, all those big fancy Apple, all those big names out there that we can bring those people into our economy somehow, and help get them to help us help them help ourselves.
Silicon Valley is a classic example, right? It's this where you are, Robett, is this this one area that some of the best creativity of the last 30 years has come out of, and then Austin, Texas, taking off, and other places like that. You kind of think, and we do some stuff here that's amazing, but I'm thinking exactly like you, Dion, James, is kind of going, how do we explode that?
Yeah. So where's the hotbed? Where's the hotbed going to be in New Zealand that we're going to put all those?
That's hopeful.
So there's two parts to this, right? The first is I totally agree with Dion's point where one of the things I actually do is I'm involved with a clean tech business which just got funded by Bill Gates's Breakthrough Energy Fund, and so I'm helping this company, and what it does. No, but it's some shit
of them all. Boom.
Because what it does is it basically converts trash into fuel with zero emissions, right? Zero carbon. And one of the options where the CEOs decided is potentially do the first one in New Zealand. So my play with it was if we could have one of these machines that was about 50,000 people or 40,000 people, 50 tons of thing a day. If you had this rolled out in New Zealand, arguably New Zealand could be the world's first zero waste nation. It's technically possible, and so they're doing the testing. But on the back of that was we had Ed Hyde on the show earlier today, and so he's the chief customer officer at Chorus, talking about where's the biggest opportunity. Similar question to what David asked, and he was saying, the biggest opportunities is going to be where the hardest has been hit, and how they actually use this new world to try and build those new worlds back up. And where my headspace went to was thinking, well, surely if I was the government right now, and if say tourism and hospitality has been really hit hard, what a great opportunity to bring a bunch of young New Zealand minds together in a collective, in a collaborative environment, like the shared workspace was literally called Collab. But imagine if you did a clean tech or hospitality based collab shared workspace funded by a bunch of these different startups, whatever, with one goal of like, how can we take this new world into hospitality and use a base of it to go to these things that have been affected? Because you're exactly right, Dion. It's if they don't take the right thinking to go to those spots, there's a lost opportunity, because the same widget that you're talking about for farming, Dion, they could go everywhere. But yeah, I think there's that next wave of the now what. I'm really intrigued with where the government goes to, because obviously this happened, they jumped in. Now what?
I'll tell you a quick story. My daughter's done a degree at AUT called Creative Technology. So you create, but you use technology at the same time. And I went to, she wins lots of awards, so I just want to put that out there. But she
not clarinet.
Yeah, not clarinet. No. So I went to. They had these innovation nights, right? And I got fascinated by this guy who was there. And I said, "Bro, what are you doing?" He goes, and he was tattooed up, but he was the biggest geek you've ever met, right? And he goes, "I've figured out how to grow a plastic type substance by using the husks that are left over once the grain is harvested." And it was growing. And I'm looking at this going, are you freaking kidding me, in an environment of single, use plastics, And it's just sitting there, and you're looking at it thinking, oh my God, next year I met him, he designed an app. And I'm thinking, how come we didn't capture that guy at that moment and go, you could be onto something here, and this could be the biggest thing worldwide, And I kind of asked myself the question, what conversations had he had? I was super encouraging, but I'm not a scientist. But what people around him, who was there to go, mate, I think you're onto something here. We're going to pull you under our wing.
But I think there's big gaps, Bruce, as well. Yeah. I think there's big gaps in the market in terms of there's an idea. Everyone loves an idea, and then there's that first stage of getting the idea off the ground and making money with it, or getting it to the market. And then there's another bit of how do you fund that so it's got some cash flow, or it's actually got an idea and gets so it's fundable on a larger scale. And there's big gaps, and I think we have to sort of reverse engineer some of those gaps and make the pathway, or clarify the pathway a little bit for people.
And by the way, this is why you have children, because they bring you a gin and tonic at 5 o'clock.
Is it 5 o'clock? Oh my gosh, I need I've got to do some exercise.
What have you got to do?
Exercise. I've been sitting in my desk all day before I can have my whiskey.
Keen to do this again, mate. So, but we probably need to bail soon, if that's all right, to be a pain.
Yes, yeah, we should probably wrap it up. It's gone off piste all over the show, but Robett, you're the best wrapper-upper of all. Maybe James, do you have any last thoughts?
No, that's fine. I'm happy to see your wrapping up skills, Dion. Did you? Because you did sort of butcher the start. So, do you want to, Dion, try and wrap this baby up, please? Yeah. Come on, this is your chance.
So, if anyone is still listening, here's a little bit of old rope. Hopefully it was worth something in the end. But thanks to Bruce, James, Robett, and I've enjoyed it, even if no one else has. So hopefully we've offered something.
I like that. That's good stuff. Good wrapping.
Cool, Poppy. Go get rid of that as well.
Clean your room,
Under
James.
pressure.
Shit.
I know I'm going to go and do that now. You're lucky you even got to see that. It's private.
Nice meeting you guys
All right,
properly
champ,
anyway.
James,
Cheers,
champ,
bros.
Dion,
Cheers. All right.
champ.
Pleasure.
Cheers, guys.
See you guys.
Bye.
Deuces.